Hi everyone, welcome to Blockchain Value. Today I have a very special guest who is doing some wonderful things in blockchain and educating everyone from industry leaders to regulators to helping students. I'm really excited about this conversation. Without further ado, Michele, it's exciting that you're here. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Professor Michele Neitz. I am a law professor at Golden Gate University School of Law in downtown San Francisco. And I'm also the founding director of the Blockchain Law for Social Good Center, which is the first center of its kind in the United States.
Really cool. Super exciting. By the way, Michele or Professor Neitz, which one do you prefer?
Michele is fine. No problem.
Okay. I definitely did not want to diminish your achievements and titles, so I want to be respectful. All right, Michele, it is. You've been a professor for 16 years. How did you get into blockchain?
It's a very good question. So I have kind of a funny story about this. My brother is a blockchain entrepreneur. And at a family dinner in late 2017, he was telling the family about his new project. And it is not unusual for members of my family to not understand anything my brother says about his work. But I was really intrigued by this new technology that he was describing. He actually drew the Bitcoin network for me on a napkin at the family dinner, as one by one, other family members sort of gave up and walked away. And I started wondering about the law that applies to this decentralized technology. So in early 2018, I looked around and thinking, I wonder if I could teach a course on this at the law school. And there just wasn't enough to be able to approach my academic dean at that time and justify a 2 or 3 unit course. So I went down the famous rabbit hole. I researched and I ended up publishing on blockchain and ethics. I had done a lot of work in ethics before then. And then in 2019, I was appointed to the California Blockchain Working Group. And that was a wonderful experience, sitting in a room with a lot of leaders and experts in this field, talking about non-financial use cases in particular, that would help the California state government become more efficient. And so that was a really great experience. We actually published our report on time despite the pandemic. And then I noticed that people weren't talking about all these socially beneficial use cases in the news. And so that's what inspired me to build the center.
Really cool. I do remember when the California Commission was put together. I think Sheila was one of the people who was on it. She was formerly was the forum, the economic forum. She's great. Is the commission still together, or the report is published and you've achieved your mission?
We've achieved the mission. We actually published our report on July 1st of 2020. It's available online for anyone who wants to see it. It's a very comprehensive report. We really worked to write it in language that would be accessible to a layperson. And now we're seeing the results in the executive order that Governor Newsom just published.
I was about to ask. It is a great report. If you can send me a link, I've seen it before. I will publish it for the folks to read because it's very enlightening. I really like that California kind of took kind of the first stab at it. And then, of course, my next question, our President Biden has recently had executive orders that are anticipated and have been impactful. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the federal government is actually moving forward in a concrete way. Legislators and regulators always have to balance this tension between promoting innovation and protecting the public. And so you'll notice in that executive order from President Biden that the first few points, bullet points, talk in the press release, talk about protection and mitigation of risk, and then promoting innovation. And so what I took from that is that the message is we're going to strike this balance, but we're going to have a real focus on the protecting of consumers and the public protection element in this order.
Yeah, it's obviously have been written by a few folks, and it's very carefully positioned. I think I took the same away, although I also kind of got let's study this. This thing is here. Let's acknowledge that it's here, and let's study its benefits. And I also find it very interesting the political climate in which it's happening. It's happening as we have all kinds of things going on in Europe. There's an increased use of crypto blockchain because of sanctions, depending on your political views for illicit purposes. I'm now carefully walking the line because I'm not intending to make this a political conversation. So it's really interesting that this is the timing we've chosen to study this.
Yes. I mean, I'm an educator, right? So I think studying is always a good idea. My concern and the reason that we started this Blockchain Law for Social Good Center is that I want to make sure that regulators are making balanced decisions and they're not just learning about crypto scams, but are actually educating themselves about all the amazing potential, what I call the non-sexy use cases in this technology, because I think that's what's more likely to stick are these non-financial applications.
Yeah, well, I am with you. Hence, the reason for the name of the conversation of the series of this conversation is Blockchain Value, which is building on the book I've written, where I highlight the use cases and applications. Because if you focus on bad things, and then I think you're gonna have to wonder why you have to get up in the morning. But if you focus on the potential and what could go right, I think you have a different lens through which you look at this really early technology, very exciting, very powerful knife that can be used to cure and could be used to kill. And let's make sure it goes the way of cure. But I digress. I definitely want to talk about the center. The first of its kind in the United States, maybe even outside. Why? How?
I'm reluctant to say in the whole world because there might be one I don't know about, but I do think we're the first ones. So this came about because of watching the regulatory discussions and the congressional debates going on around crypto last summer. And I realized that the nuanced conversations we had in the blockchain working group were not being had at the congressional level and even at the state legislative level. So I thought, well, somebody has to educate these regulators and policymakers in addition to educating lawyers and law students. And so I applied to the Algorand Foundation, who gave me a grant to launch the center. We launched in February, and our mission is threefold. It's education of the community and law students, but also special focus on government officials. And we're also focused on building a community around blockchain for social good so that people have a place they can go when they are curious about it or if they're looking to see examples of blockchain for social good. And we're using our blog for that. And then finally, research and policy. So we're still building it out. We have a couple of affiliated scholars on board that I'll be able to announce shortly. And we're really excited about the demand. I did not expect this level of demand from students around the country, from lawyers, but in particular from government officials. So I've already trained two agencies so far, and I'm moving on to a project with the DMV and doing a training for them this summer.
So if you may disclose, who did you train so far?
So the first training was for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. And they broadened out to the entire department that they are a part of. And we had about 300 people come to that training. And then yesterday, I trained the executive staff of the California State Comptroller's Office. And so that was an hour and a half training of talking to the policymakers in the Comptroller's Office about ways in what blockchain is and ways that it can help their efforts in California.
Oh, I just love it. This is so great. I'm so glad you're doing it. It's such an important work. And, I'm not at all surprised that, people want to know about it. I'm teaching, we just talked, I just started teaching at Berkeley Law, the third time blockchain law. The class is full. There's a lot of interest. We have in-house lawyers, law firm lawyers. We have some regulators. We have some academics. So yeah, it's definitely a very important topic. I have a very high engagement. Our class was 2.5 hours, and despite the technical difficulties, folks have been really engaged. So I am not at all surprised. I think what you're doing is a service to the community, much needed work. We have quite a few people who say it's a very interesting topic. Thank you, Charlie, for joining. And Kimberly, thank you so much. And Joanne, thank you as well. So this is to the point that This is a very important topic and very much on the top of mind of professionals and lawyers and regulators. And, your timing is perfect. I am curious because when you talk to regulators, I've done a fair amount of presentation to regulators as well, especially when I was more fully in blockchain industry. You also learn a lot along the way. It's less of a kind of monologue; it's more of a dialogue, in my experience. What are the things that you're learning? What surprised you the most, on this journey?
Well, the folks who are organizing the trainings, I offer to tailor them directly to what the offices need. And a lot of what I'm hearing is, no, we just need to know what blockchain is. So people are really hungry to know. And I'm probably going to end up doing series of trainings in this for these offices, because the first one that I've done is, here's what blockchain is, here's the potential, here are the use cases you haven't heard about. And then it's kind of, questions about the specifics of how it could help their office. But I will say, those who are trained or who understand the technology, I'm getting a lot of questions in California about things like environmental sustainability. How can we make it accessible for everyone, even those who may not have access to the internet or to cell phones? A lot of questions about security and privacy. And so the folks who are aware of this technology and have been thinking about it a bit in this context are asking really good questions that I think the industry should be prepared to answer.
Yeah, those are really good questions, both the environmental and privacy and security. And yes, that's about right. Those have been my experiences, and I'm really thrilled that our regulators in our state are very engaged. It's this technology is developing and will have an impact, and we should be part of the conversation. By we, I mean all of us, including the regulators. You obviously have a legal background. You teach in law school. This is a center within the law school. I'm just curious, from your point of view, what is the role of lawyers in this space? I tend to share that, it is in many ways a legal product because it has financial component to it, either overtly or indirectly, directly or indirectly. And most anything that is financial is highly regulated and therefore essentially a legal product. But I'm curious, kind of on your point of view, what is the role of lawyers in this technology, and how can we all collectively, be part of the conversation and contribute?
Well, the role of lawyers, of course, is always to serve their clients, right? And so I do think that lawyers have a special obligation in this space to do education, to educate their clients so that they can make decisions for their business that are going to be better in the long term, not just for their business, but for the whole industry. And so I see, now, of course, I'm biased, right? I'm a law school professor.
We're both biased. I love this industry too. So it's okay to be biased. The best of us are biased.
Okay. So what I'm hoping, like every student that I am educating at Golden Gate and that you're educating at Berkeley, hopefully will go out and introduce this technology the way my brother did to me, right? That they'll explain to those in their communities what the technology is about. And so I feel a special obligation to make sure that communities that were left out of Web 2 are included in Web 3. We're looking to do things like expand into community colleges, hopefully someday expand into high schools, to really try to catch students as they're learning about what their, not just the technology, but what their role in the technology might be, and trying to diversify this pipeline into the industry so that it's more inclusive than what we saw with Web 2.
Oh, I love that. That the education and inclusion. I love those. Those are really great goals, and especially we can learn from Web 2 because many of us benefited and many have been left behind, and it's a shame to be left out from technological advancement because you really feel it. It's not a party that you didn't get a chance to attend to. It will affect your entire life, and so that those are very important goals. We have a few more questions remaining. I'm going to ask you one of the things I want to talk to you about, that you mentioned a few times and came up in our conversations. We had a wonderful dinner after we taught PLI during the pandemic. It was one of the few that I had in person. It was so wonderful to actually meet you in person and have this conversation. You talked there and even now about social good. And, I did a TEDx San Francisco talk about smart contracts like 3 or 4 years ago. And I tried to focus less on how it works and more on kind of social good and what good can come out of it. So very important topic for me. I am curious what applications you're seeing and really how do you make sure that, the good uses, the social good uses are really a highlight and not afterthought of this technology.
Well, and that's one of the main goals of the center, right? I mean, this technology is going to touch every industry. So no matter what industry you work in, as a lawyer in any industry that you're working in right now, blockchain is going to become an issue that your industry will have to discuss. So I think of social good as anything that would actually benefit society as opposed to taking away. Either from disadvantaged populations or from, environmental causes or things like that. And as in the first 3 months that we've been doing this center, there is some really exciting work going on. Lots of startups in this space that I would never have heard about had I not gone out to find them. And so we're actually on our blog, we're doing a Tuesday project spotlight on these projects. So some examples, Levi Strauss used blockchain to try to make sure that its worker well-being survey at its factories in Mexico and Poland were actually capturing what those workers wanted to say. We've profiled some environmental causes like KlimaDAO and Veritree and these other projects that your audience may never have heard of that are really trying to use the technology in a way to offset carbon credits or ensure that tree planting organizations are actually doing what they're suggesting to do so they can prove to their donors through the blockchain, we have actually planted this tree.
Oh, I love this. This is great. We should have some of these folks join me for blockchain value conversation.
Absolutely.
We should elevate those conversations to a larger audience. Would love your recommendations for them to join.
Absolutely. And I'm finding that when I reach out to folks, they're very excited to talk about their projects, but I never see anything about it in any of the publications or periodicals or articles that you see about blockchain. So that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, sometimes it's sexier to talk about, illicit activities.
That is right.
It may satisfy the human need for drama sometimes. But truly, this technology has a lot of potential in elevating, the builders, right? I tend to say the future belongs to builders. And elevating the builders I think is very, very important. And we are in blockchain in the building stage. So if you don't like the world you are in today, roll up your sleeve and go build a new one. That is the opportunity. That is the challenge. Curious. What a challenge, not everything is rosy. I've built things before and building is a challenging thing to do. It's exciting, it's invigorating, it's a powerful thing to do. It's also a challenging thing to do. What are the challenges you faced in your adventures of building a center, educating regulators, building momentum, excitement in doing all that?
Well, the first challenge is that I have to clone myself somehow. I have to figure out how to do this because there's more requests coming in than we're able to manage of people who are curious, who want to be part of this. And I'm really hoping to soon incorporate blockchain attorneys and those in the legal space who understand blockchain and bring them in as folks who will be able to help us with the demand that we're seeing from government officials, from students, from companies that want to learn about blockchain for social good. And so that's kind of my first challenge. The challenges I anticipated, things like, I hope people are interested in this. And I hope that, we have enough government officials who are wanting to learn about this. That has not been a problem, actually. And so we're going to continue to expand and continue to build. And we're doing a big conference in October, October 20th and 21st on our campus in downtown San Francisco, which Olga, we'd love to have you at. And so we have a lot of exciting things in the pipeline, and we're figuring out how we're going to manage because the mission is to spread education. So we're going to try to do this in the most efficient way that we can while still reaching demand.
I'm not sure if you put me on a spot, but the answer is yes. I'm happy to support you, Michelle. You don't have to put me on the spot. I actually just respond to like normal. Would you join me? Yes, anytime you have me. But since you did it on air, I'll say yes on air as well. Really exciting. Really excited to support you. I believe in what you're doing. I very much believe in kind of the potential of this technology to do good, and the potential of this technology to make the world a slightly improved version, or a really improved version of what we found when we got here. So I think that's really the challenge and potential. That's why I'm really super excited about this technology. That's why I like to support builders like you, who is building the education platform to share with everyone. Last question: how can people help? How can lawyers, other professionals help you on your mission, on your building adventure to increase education access, to help our regulators, to help us to improve this world that we found?
Great question. Thank you, Olga. I think the first thing I would say is get involved with our center. We're building out an email subscriber list right now, and it's all available on our blog, which I can let folks know and also give you. It's blockchainlawsg.org. And so we have a contact form, and we welcome folks who are interested in helping us with this mission in any way, whether that's guest lecturing to law students about what they see in the industry, whether that's talking to us about things they think regulators should know as we're doing these trainings, and offering opportunities to students who are dying to learn about this technology. There's a real hunger, as you are seeing in law schools, from law students who want to work in this space. And so we would love to have folks involved. And because we're new, we have lots of opportunities, and we're still building.
Yeah, awesome. Share the links. We'll put them here so folks can access them and join you in your building adventure. What you're doing is amazing and important, and I would like to support you, and I encourage others to support Michelle. What she's doing is a real service to the community. Michelle, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Almost as good and better in some ways than the one we had in person. So, it's just a different experience, but I've learned so much from you and really appreciate your contribution to this technology. What is one or two takeaway you think they should have from this conversation?
Well, the first, I would say, when you're talking about folks about this technology, which of course we all do, right? We're all sort of informally educating people all the time. I think it's important not to just have the conversation be about crypto, but also about the potential that this technology has to do all kinds of things that are going to make our populations in any country feel like they're involved in the technology, but also feel like they're benefiting from it. So I guess what I would ask folks to do is to learn about social good use cases, either through our blog or elsewhere, and to, when you're talking to people, to remember that it's not just crypto and that there's so much more that we can do with this technology if we're just aware of it.
So much more than crypto. Indeed. Crypto is exciting, and there's a lot of value there, but I'm here with Michelle. There's so much more. The Internet of Value has value for all of us, and crypto is just a start. There's so much more to this. So definitely participate in the center, educate yourself about use cases, educate yourself about technology. And then if you find yourself that the world you're in could be better, roll up your sleeves and start building, because as I say, the future belongs to builders and anyone can be a builder. So thank you so much for joining this conversation. Thank you so much for your comments and your notes and being here with us. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you have nominations of who else can join me for this conversation so we can all learn and together and educate others, let me know. I would love to invite the builders and those who support builders for this conversation. Keep on learning, keep on showing up. We'll have more of these conversations. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.